Hello, hello, I'm Kads, and welcome back to the free-to-play review. So today we're going to be talking about the newest summoning event added to the game called Progressive Chance Events. You can see here in the tagline that you could have up to a 25x chance to get certain champions, and the champions are kind of like just your standard 10x where they have a small pool of champions that you can choose from, and in this case we can take a look at them. So we have Stultus Dragonbane, Snicktrack, Nekmothar, Contra the Cyclone, Countess Lix, Theodore for the legendaries, and then Lady Annabelle and Stagnite for the epics, non-void. And then for the voids, you have Tunisia and Ursuga or Warcaller, and then White Dryad Nia and Tuhawk the Wanderer. Now, the first thing to make note of here is that these do not replace 10x's. Those will still be probably the most common type of event on every off week, every time it's not a 2x. But nonetheless, these are going to be in addition to those and mixed and matched between them, and potentially in the future it might overlap with a 2x like 10x's sometimes do. So the premise of this system is the more unlucky you are, the higher your chance becomes to get your specifically chosen desired champions. In this case, I picked my 3 out of the handful of legendaries and epics. And so if I were to get some legendary and it's not one of these 3 that I picked, not necessarily one of the ones in the pool, just the ones that I picked, then it would go up, for example, for legendaries, it would go up to a 20x chance from the base of 15x to get these specific champions. Now, the important thing to note here is that it is dependent on the rarity of the champion you get. So getting a rare is not going to affect any of these from an Ancient Shard, for example. But if I were to get an epic, for example, that is not Stagnite, then my chance of Stagnite would go up from the 15x to the 20x. And if I got a second epic that is also not Stagnite in this case, then it would go up to a 25x. Same logic applies to legendaries. If you were to get 2 legendaries that are not one of these 3, then you would get all the way out to the 25x chance. Now, for very, very obvious reasons, as you'd expect, getting 3 legendaries in one go on a 10x is something that most people won't have access to. But the good news is that the base number or the base multiplier is 15x as opposed to a 10x, so you're already getting some increment better of higher odds of getting the champion that you might want. And compared to a 10x, which is usually just randomly selected champions, in this case, you do have a little bit of choice which ones you want the boosted chances for. So it's not just a huge selection of champions that you may or may not want. You can kind of minimize that a little bit more, or target it more, focus it more to champions that you actually want the boosted chances for. Another main thing to note is that this is actually very, very powerful, more powerful than it seems, specifically for chasing epics. So in the case of a summon rush like we have going on right now, for the current Fragment Summon champion, if I wanted to get a Stagnite, for example, who's just the one that I chose, I have both of the champions. I have Lady Annabelle and Stagnite, so it doesn't really matter, but you do have to fill all the slots, unfortunately. And so I just put one in there. It doesn't really matter if I get it. But essentially, from a Sacred Shard, where you're guaranteed to get at least an epic, if you just get 2 epics that are not the one that you choose, then by your 3rd Sacred, you're already at a 25x chance to get whatever epic you desired. So if you don't, for example, have a Stagnite, then it is very, very likely, just by pulling a few Sacreds, which you would need to do if you're going for the Fragment Summon, that you would end up walking away with Stagnite because the chance becomes so high. There's 24 extra Stagnites in the epic pool. That's how all these X's work. So if you really want to understand what this means or what these numbers mean, let's hop over to a spreadsheet, of course, where I do have the base 10x calculator here, but the one that we're focusing on is the 15x calculator, which again is the new base value for this type of event. There is no 10x, it starts at 15 and can increase all the way up to 25. And the short version of this is that the odds slightly improve relative to getting champions from their respective pools, being the void pool or the non-void pool. But for this, I'm choosing to highlight exclusively just the 15x because from a practical standpoint, majority of the people playing the game and watching this content, for example, probably aren't going to get multiple instances of legendaries over the course of one shard event weekend. So if we take a look at the numbers here, for example, for Ancient Shards, there's 164 viable or possible legendaries in the pool. That means excluding ones that cannot be pulled from shards and ones that are exclusive to like Doom Tower or promotional events, stuff like that. And so the base rate for any run-of-the-mill 10x right now, if there's just a single champion, is that there's a 5.8% chance that if you get a legendary, it's going to be that 10x champion. And when you flip that around, that means that there's effectively a 94% chance that you'll get any other legendary in that pool once you pull that shard or once you pull that legendary. So as you'd expect, 15x is a little bit better. It increases from 5.8 up to 8.4. It's not substantial, so 3% chance increase. But then again, flipping it around, it's a 92% chance that if you get a legendary, it will will not be the one featured in the 15x. So is it a big improvement? No, but that's what you'd expect. It's 50% better, but 50% of a low number, like 6%, is not going to appreciate into a large magnitude value. But nonetheless, the odds are slightly better, and it is important to acknowledge that fact. The other thing to make note of is that for an event like this, where there are going to be 3 champions in the X pool, 10x, 15x, whatever, that means that you actually do have a, starting at a 15% for a 10x, but in this case, where it starts at 15, you have a 21% chance that if you get a legendary, you will get one of those 3 that you selected. And again, highlighting the fact that you get to pick the 3 that you'd like to focus on for these higher odds. So when you think of it that way, yes, you still have the base 8.4% chance to get the specific one that you want. But if you're okay with any of the 3, just any of them at all, you have a 1 in 5 shot to get that one, which is a lot higher. When you go over to Sacreds, there's slightly less available champions in that pool, so the numbers are effectively the same from a practicality standpoint. But of course, it improves substantially when you go over to Void Shards or Void Legendaries, because there are substantially less Void Legendaries in the game. So from there, we're going from 15.2% chance that if you get a legendary, it's going to be the one featured in the 10x, all the way up to a 21% chance. So about 1 in 6 to roughly 1 in 5 is your odds of you getting that one champion that you might want. In this case, it'd be Tunisia or Suga Warcaller. Same logic as the other shard types applies, that if there are multiple instances of champions, then the odds go up. So if there were, which I don't think they've ever done 3 Void Legendaries at once, but if there were 3 in a 15x, for example, you'd have almost a 50-50 shot to get one of the 3. So just bear that in mind for future reference in case they happen to do that in the future. So what are my thoughts on this new system? I think it's pretty interesting. I do like that there is some element of choice, meaning you get to pick the champions you'd like to focus on, rather than it just being a pool of random champions based on whatever theme. There is still that limitation because they are choosing the champions in the overall pool, but you have the option to narrow it down to the ones you might not have. And in my case, I don't have Snick Track or Countess Licks, and I happen to have most of the rest of the champions in this particular pool. Another thing I like is what I highlighted earlier, that this is a great opportunity to chase down specific epics if they happen to be featured in the pool. So if you wanted a Stag Knight, this is a great chance to get them from Sacred Shards. You could technically also get them from Ancient Shards, but you'd have to pull a lot more of those to get the magnitude of epics required to increase the odds all the way, specifically during a non-2x. And of course, as I highlighted, the odds have improved ever so slightly. I mean, 10x to 15x is a nice jump, and it does cater more so to the actual pool, and it probably brings it closer to what a 10x was supposed to represent way back when there were just less champions in the pool, with it being roughly a 10% chance to get that champion, or 1 in 10. Now, I know some people see it as a downside that it will essentially take you a boatload of shards if you want to max out the legendary chance of 25x, but I think that's kind of akin with a monetized game in general, where there is a base level, the 15x, which we can call the free-to-play section, where it's just a improved 10x relative to the champions that you select. And then for the whales, if they really want to go harder, they get a benefit from going harder and getting the chances to go up to 20x and 25x. So it caters to both, but the reality here is that if you are a free-to-play or low spender, then you're probably just going to get the base 15x and you're not going to get multiple instances, and that's just something you kind of have to accept in a game like such as Raid that is monetized. So overall, I do think it's a good addition. It's a spin on the traditional system, and stuff like this is probably what we want to see more of in the future, where there's a little bit more player choice and, more importantly, just higher odds or higher chances to get lucky with something that you choose. On the flip side, I have seen some rather negative takes that I disagree with, and I will preface this by saying that these might be unpopular opinions, but nonetheless, I'm going to talk about them anyways. So the first thing that I heard that I took issue with is that this system is exploitative. And the reason I have an issue with that is because exploiting something typically means taking advantage of in the absence of information. And in this case, legally speaking, Plarium is required by law, at least in order to sell their game in the app stores or other similar platforms, they are required to tell you exactly how any gambling or RNG-based systems work in this game. Not out of the kindness of their own hearts, I'm not saying that by any means, but they are legally obligated to tell you exactly what you're getting into, meaning that you can't really say that you are unaware of what's going on, therefore you're not being exploited, because you have all the information up front. I just went through all the math for you. The numbers are better than they were before, but still kind of bleak, and again, you need to understand that, and if you don't understand that, and you pull, and you feel cheated at the end of it, that's more on you than on them, because technically the information is all out there for you to see. I don't have any any insider information. I looked at what they told us, came up with the numbers myself, and shared that with you guys. So you have the power to do that for yourself, or you have the power to watch someone like me or other content creators who will break it down for you. Point being that you can't really say you're being exploitive or the system is exploitative if you have all the information about exactly how it works and what you're getting into up front. And the other half of this grievance is that it is exploiting people who have gambling problems. Now, the reason I take issue with that is because you're externalizing your own personal problem when you say things like that. And what I mean by that is that it wouldn't really make sense if an alcoholic were to blame bars for selling drinks, because no one is forcing the alcoholic to go out there and consume the drink. They have a problem with that substance, and it's incumbent upon them to deal with their problem appropriately. Meaning that if you are an alcoholic, you probably should not hang around bars, because that's probably not the best thing for your health. And the parallel here is that if you do have a gambling problem, then you probably shouldn't hang out in or around casinos, or you probably shouldn't be playing games that have gambling featured within it. It's no secret that gacha games have microtransactions as well as RNG-based systems, meaning that there is an aspect of gambling, and you are fully aware of that. And if you know that you have a gambling problem, this probably isn't the type of game for you, and it is incumbent upon you, the person with the problem, to deal with that accordingly. At the end of the day, companies like this, or bars and clubs selling alcohol to people, are in the business to make money, not necessarily to take advantage of people who couldn't otherwise control themselves under the circumstances. They're in it to make money by providing a service to people who want them, which does unfortunately include those who have an unhealthy habit, but more importantly includes the more general public who does not have said unhealthy habit. So the main takeaway here, not to be a victim blamer or anything like that, but I would say it's more incumbent on the person with the problem to remove themselves from a situation that could put them in a poor situation, versus trying to change external systems to cater to people who have that problem. But of course, that is just my opinion, so if you disagree, let's have a discussion in the comment section down below, or you can let me know your thoughts on how you feel about this system overall, positive, negative, neutral, whatever it may be. So to round things out, there is of course the summon rush for the ongoing fragment summon for Ugir the Worm Eater, and we are going to participate. You can already see that I pre-pulled the mysteries for the summon rush. I guess I should mention what the milestones are. And so this one, kind of essentially what I estimated it to be, this is effectively 7 sacreds, which is not out of the ballpark of normality for a less popular fusion, as we talked about in the fusion plan video, if you want to check that out. I think that came out yesterday. But so this is effectively 3,500 plus 120 mysteries. Everyone can do 120 mysteries, and that does not take a bunch of time at all compared to like 1,000 plus mystery shards. The good thing to note here is that they are spread out, so more spread out than normal, but 1,800, 2,700, and 3,620. But unfortunately, as we talked about in the fusion plan, you kind of have to max this out regardless, so it doesn't really matter what the lower milestones are. They could have put all 20 at 3,620 and it wouldn't have mattered effectively. So because I am pursuing this fragment summon, I will be pulling 7 sacreds in pursuit of that. And of course, I will be finishing out the last 6 over the next couple of resets, the one today and the one tomorrow. That's just how I like to do it, min-maxing. That way I don't fill my champion pool more than I need to with just a bunch of food champions. So for taking a look at my overall shard count, we can see here we have 583 on the ancients, 257 on the voids, 15 on the primals, and 47 on the sacreds, which of course we will be dipping into today. Now in this case, we're going to skip mercy because I reset it with the double legendary or the pogo event that just happened, so we are back at 0, no surprise. And as far as the wish list is concerned, I really don't expect to get a legendary at all. Again, we're fresh off of mercy, but from this particular pool, the one I would want the most is Snick Track if I was able to get any of the ones from the featured 15x here. And of course, I would love to get some of the Lady Mikage epics along the way, so we'll see what we get up to today. We've got some space, we've got some cash, and hopefully we get some decent luck. Here we go, sacred number 1. What's it going to be? Most likely an epic. Most likely we're going to walk away here with 7 epics. So you can see there that it kind of tells you in real time that we missed on the epic that is not Stagnite. Therefore, now we have a 20x chance to get Stagnite in terms of getting epics. And Deacon Armstrong, definitely one of the best epics in the entire game. Turn meter control on a 3-turn cooldown, or effectively a 2-turn cooldown because it grants an extra turn, AoE decrease defense, and leech on the A1. Super good in so many different areas: arena, Demon Lord, clan boss, Doom Tower, you name it, he can do it. Faction wars, super solid epic champion, one of the best in the game. Sacred number 2, another epic as expected. Double miss on the Stagnite, so you can see there now we're at a 25% chance, or a maxed out chance to get Stagnite. And again, it doesn't matter to me, I already have them, but you have to pick something Pestilus, one of the worst epics in the game with the weirdest combination of buffs on the A3 with increased accuracy and increased crit damage. No idea what this champion is supposed to do, so let's keep it going. Probably not necessarily needs a buff. I think he needs a rework that would make him make more sense. Oh, there you go, Stag Knight. So we procced the 25x, and we had a much higher chance to get Stag Knight, and there he is. So once again, proving that this is a great opportunity for those chasing epics that happen to be featured in the pool. So if I didn't have Stag Knight, 3 Sacreds for a Stag Knight is a great deal with the boosted odds from the system. AoE decreased defense, decreased attack. You can get this to 100% chance with the Sniper Mastery, and then decreased speed, double hitter on the A1. Really solid epic champion. I got him so late, so I don't get to appreciate him as much as a lot of other people per se, but nonetheless, he is definitely up there as one of the best epics in the game. Rask, one of the best epic healers in the game. A2 is useless, and he really just needs to use his A1 and work the passive where he heals by 10% of his max HP every time he inflicts a critical hit. So you build him with full crit rate, good speed, and as much HP as possible, and he's going to keep your team alive and running. I like to run him in Retaliation, actually. Some people like Relentless, but I prefer Retaliation because you just take more hits in PvE than you do in other areas of the game. Fang Cleric, basically just a Dark Elf Reviver. Really not much to say about him. Revives a single ally on a 4-turn cooldown. Very weak. Probably not worth it unless you're super desperate to complete Faction Wars, but even then I'd recommend that you just use Rianne the Conjurer because she can strip buffs in addition to having a revive. Gerhard the Stone, an epic who hits extremely hard. I think he's all single targets. Yes. But he's immune to a bunch of CC debuffs, granted on a 3-turn cooldown. He hits hard, but that's kind of it. Relatively one-dimensional. So last Sacred here. Let's see what it's going to be. 7 epics is the expectation, and 7 epics is exactly what we get. Venusil, not much. We thought he was going to be good for Sand Devil as well because he does have a sleep on the A1 with a relatively high chance for an A1, but that didn't really pan out. He's good for Faction Wars if you do need. You can decrease the duration of enemy buffs on a 5-turn cooldown, which really needs to change. That needs to be stronger. And then a pretty decent heal and then increased defense on all allies. He's more annoying as an enemy, particularly paired with like Sathali and stuff like that in the waves for Faction Wars. So very annoying champion to go against, but not very strong to have on your account. So there we go, 7 Sacreds pulled, and we can collect all of our fragments. And like I said, over the next couple of resets, I will get the last 6 from the daily missions or whatever, and we'll get all the way up to 3620 exactly. So that's going to do it for the free-to-play review of the Progressive Chance Summoning events. Let me know what you guys think of this style of event. Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? Are you neutral about it? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below. And if you enjoyed the video, then be sure to subscribe to the channel for more content just like this one in the future. And I will restate that for the entire month of November, I am keeping track of how many subscribers I will have gained because I did pledge to donate $2 on behalf of you guys for every sub gained for the entire month to Movember, which is the reason why I'm growing this horrible mustache, in support of the Movember campaign, which supports men's health, as well as efforts to deal with testicular and prostate cancer. No action is required by you guys aside from subscribing to the channel if you are enjoying the content, and that's the main reason, but the side benefit for the entire month is that you are contributing to my donation. I'll leave a link to their website if you want to know more about the foundation and the Movember campaign in and of itself and how to participate. And the last time I checked, we are around $60 worth of a donation over the course of this month thus far. So thank you for all of your subscriptions. Thanks for watching and have a good one.